Hello, hello. Welcome to the 38th episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the Chief Veggie Pusher, myself, Rebecca Gady-Sawicki. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need, and this podcast. With this podcast, I aim to amplify the voices of businesses championing vegan and vegan-friendly options, responsible tourism practices, the environment, and community impact. Things we need more of and must actively support. We are right now less than a week away from kicking off our next vegan tour to stunning Iceland. If you're curious about what one of our adventures is like, go follow Veggies Abroad on Instagram. I'll be posting updates on all of our fun throughout the trip. And then after Iceland, our next trip will be in October to gorgeous Portugal. If you've been thinking about that trip, you better act soon. The deadline is just a little over a month away. One other housekeeping note, if you are in or will be in Detroit on June 1st, come to Detroit's Eastern Market and say hi. We will be participating in Veg Michigan's Veg Fest for the day. You can come and learn about trip planning services, tours, ask questions about a destination, and more. It's always really, really lovely to meet people in person. So I really do hope that if you are there, you will say hello. Now, for those of you, which is probably all of you, who love animals, this episode is for you. Unfortunately, the tourism industry is filled with unethical animal experiences. Some are obvious, while others might not be as apparent. I always tell people when they're looking at activities that involve animals is to ask themselves, would an animal do that or act like that in the wild? If the answer is no, then you should book something else. Many things that seem innocent on the surface are filled with cruelty behind the scenes. Anything that involves feeding, touching, or holding an animal should be avoided. Another thing to be on the lookout is for an activity that guarantees that you will see something. Wild animals are unpredictable. That's why they're wild. There are no guarantees in nature. So if a company guarantees something, then they're absolutely doing something in the background to make it happen. I know most people don't have ill intentions when it comes to wildlife activities. It comes from a place of genuine interest and love. But we have to remember that they aren't here for us. They are their own complex living beings that deserve freedom and the ability to be left alone. There are also human implications within some of these industries that need to be factored into these conversations. We'll touch on it briefly today, but that is truly a whole other podcast episode. So, joining me today is Nicole Barrantes from World Animal Protection. Nicole is responsible for World Animal Protection's Wildlife, Not Entertainers campaign, where she works to end the captive wildlife entertainment industry through public education, corporate engagement, and the development of responsible alternatives. She loves using the power of people and creativity to drive innovative solutions. Let's chat with Nicole. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today. It is a pleasure to see you, and I am really looking forward to chatting about your expertise in fighting for animals in the entertainment and tourism industry.
Thanks so much. I'm happy to be here.
So let's jump right in. Can you give us an overview of the work of World Animal Protection and what you guys do globally?
Definitely. So World Animal Protection, we're a global animal welfare organization, and our mission is to move the world to protect animals. We have offices in 12 countries around the world, including the UK, Australia, China, and Brazil. Our work is divided between farmed animals and wild animals. So the former works to end factory farming and encouraging people to eat less meat or go vegan. And then our wildlife work is what I work on is working on animals sold as pets, entertainment, and fashion. So I work on the entertainment side, so our travel tourism work.
Very interesting. Has World Animal Protection always had a focus in the tourism industry, or was that kind of an evolution of the overall mission over time?
So we've been around since the 1960s. So specifically, our work on tourism started around 2015, so about 10 years ago. And it started with our first campaign on TripAdvisor. So TripAdvisor at the time was selling tickets to SeaWorld and elephant rides. So we got 500,000 of our supporters around the world to sign our petition, and within 6 months, TripAdvisor stopped. So it was like really
that's
great.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really great because like it was our first I wasn't here. I joined in 2019, but that was our first real campaign. And then from then we've worked on with like booking, education first, Airbnb, and yeah, we've done a lot of other things since then.
Yeah, so TripAdvisor was kind of like the springboard for all of your work within tourism.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's been great.
That's very cool. So let's dive into some of the specific animal experiences that you guys campaign against. Many tourists, I feel like they don't realize that some activities like taking a selfie with a tiger or an elephant bath can actually be really cruel. Can you kind of talk about some of these types of attractions and, how that they are actually unethical and cruel?
Yeah, so with animal selfies, 10 times out of 10, the animal has to be forced to interact with human. It's just not, an animal will never come up to you and be like, hey, hold me. Or
let's take a picture for Instagram.
Yeah, that could never happen. And with tigers, like they're drugged, so you can take the selfie, otherwise they'll harm you. With sloths, they're taken from the wild. With dolphin shows, trainers use food deprivation so the dolphins will do the tricks for us. So in essence, like all these activities just limits animals from being themselves. They're not free. They're not in their natural conditions, living conditions, and that's just because welfare is not the main priority for them.
Right. It's making money that is the main priority. I always like to remind people, and I think you alluded to this in the beginning, that would an animal do that in the wild? If the answer is no, then it's unethical or it's cruel.
Right.
Like all of these activities, the bathing one, I think always gets people because they're like, but elephants bathe themselves. True, but not in the same amount or in the same way or with a human involved with it.
Yeah, and you also have to I know it's hard for people to think about the grand scheme of things, but those elephants, they're there all day. They're getting probably bathed all day, and they wouldn't do that naturally. So once you leave, the activity's gone, but it's not done for them. It's just another.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. Or, another elephant activity that I've seen quite often is walking with them, or even feeding them as well too, because you're interrupting what their normal activities would be, causing additional stress, and they have to be there for you, not for them.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys find challenging to get people to understand?
It is, because people naturally love animals, as do myself, and we want to be near them. We want to be close. We want to interact with them. So we do often get questions but what about this? What about this? Like you said, what about the bathing? What about the walking? And they're people try and find a way. And unfortunately, we always have to just say, if you can touch, feed, hug, interact in any way, it's unethical. And the only ethical way is just to view from a distance. So it's just education, and eventually people get it sometimes.
Sometimes, yes. We hope, please.
We hope.
Right, that is always the key there, the hopefulness of it, and that people come around. I always, try to use people's own pets sometimes as an example. Would you want your cat or your dog to be in that situation, to constantly be touched, constantly be handled? How would they feel about that? And I mean, these are domestic animals that are used to human interaction. And even that amount of interaction they wouldn't want. And I think sometimes that helps people think, oh, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, it's all about having a conversation. Because at the end, I do believe people will think that it's bad. And once they learn about it. I'm not using the domestic animal point is good. That's what I use with the food that we eat, So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the travel industry is making strides in improvement. You'll have to tell me if I'm wrong at the end of this. When it comes to wildlife activities, I don't get suppliers as often coming to me with hey, we're offering elephant rides. I've even had some come out and say, nope, we don't do that. That's against our policies. But oftentimes, I do get kind of the flip of what we've already talked about, things that those in the industry think are softer activities, the bathing, the holding, the feeding. And I think that can be really challenging for the public because they see those as something that's a better activity, but it's still problematic. Do you think in a way that making progress on it is still better than nothing at all? I know that's like a really challenging limbo space to be in.
That is challenging. So you're saying like within like people saying like, oh, can I bathe instead of ride? Is that what you're...
Yeah, like you're kind of tiptoeing through, I don't know what would be the best terminology for it. Like you're making strides to be better, and hopefully the next step is then like no contact at all.
Right.
So is, in essence, pushing people along that line better than nothing?
I would say progress is progress. It's not an easy thing for me to say that because It's all still cruel for the animal. But when you take like an elephant ride versus elephant bathing, elephant rides, like they go through such cruel training methods, with the bull hooks and all that. So progress is progress, but still our messaging remains the same when we just say like, just don't interact at all.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I had a conversation with a sanctuary in Thailand, and they were kind of discussing that with like seeing other sanctuary owners kind of come into it, but they kind of made strides. It wasn't just an overnight thing that they were like, oh yeah, this is all bad. It was kind of like a progressive change to, okay, now we need to outlaw all of this. And so I totally get where you guys come from on that. And I feel the same. But like you kind of have to meet people, I guess, maybe where they're at is the point.
Yeah, and I know we'll touch a little bit on our work with travel companies, but similar with them as well. Like there's some travel companies that'll drop elephants, but they still sell dolphin attractions. And they think like, oh, okay, we're good now. And they're like, no, now we got to work on dolphin. Like that was with Expedia. That was with our campaign on them, and eventually they dropped the dolphin things as well. And so it's just, it's progress, but it's still frustrating. But we gotta work with how companies are.
Yeah, we have to keep moving forward. We can't stop. Do you think social media affects some of these experiences and makes it harder for the work that you guys do? Oh yeah,
100%. I mean, if you see a person posting a photo with a tiger and you love animals, you'll want to do that. And it's not like everyone's putting in the body text like what they're doing or how harmful it is. People don't know. And years ago, our research department did a study on Instagram, not with Instagram, but on Instagram. And they found that 40% of photos with wild animals, like published, that people were posting were quote, quote, bad animal selfies. So like harmful animal photos. So, hugging, interacting, feeding. So it's very common still, but that's where our platform, what we try to do as well when we post, just education is key.
Yeah, that is really frustrating. That is a lot, but you see it with, I guess all kinds of things. Instagram can do a lot of good things, but it can also do a lot of damage. It's almost like kerosene on a fire. Just a few then turns into hundreds or just turns into thousands. And people get it in their mind like, well, I saw it there. Betsy did it down the street. It should be okay.
I know it spreads. It also, I don't know if you saw the episode White Lotus, the new season.
Yes.
So Mike White, he's a huge animal lover. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, and like Jennifer Coolidge when she was on the season 2. But that scene where one of the characters releases the snakes.
Yes, I remember that. I was actually thinking about you guys during that.
Oh yeah, that's funny. But I was quite happy with that scene, and I knew it only happened because of Mike White and his love for animals, and the character says, oh, they still deserve to be free. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And hopefully that message resonated with people that watch the show, because it's Thailand, there's a bunch of unethical animal things to do over there. So luckily, social media or media can also be used to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that scene when that happened, and I thought, I hope that gets some Instagram play because, we all saw so many White Lotus memes and White Lotus videos and this and that. I think it got a little bit of play, but maybe not the same amount that we wished that it would.
Yeah. Well, at least we noticed it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. So we've talked about some of the ways that wild animals are exploited. What are some of the most common things that you find in your work?
So we look a lot at the conditions that the animals live under at these venues. So with dolphins, when we did our Fooled by a Smile report, we estimated that dolphins live in tanks 200,000 times smaller than their natural home range.
Did you say 200,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
200,000. And in the wild, dolphins swim 40 to 50 miles a day. So they are just so restricted at these places. And an image that always bothers me is like an aerial view of SeaWorld and like how huge the parking lot is. And then
I've seen that, yes.
Yeah, and how small the tanks are. Like or there's this other venue in Hawaii, I'm forgetting the name, but they're so close to the ocean, the dolphins.
Right,
like
they could almost jump out.
They could almost jump out. And I always
jump.
think like,
Please.
So we always look at the living conditions for the animals and what else? There's so much, unfortunately. Like they work 12-hour days, dolphins, performing in shows or, interacting with people for a selfie. I mentioned food deprivation. Elephants, same. They're long hours working. They're often isolated, brutal training methods. And then a big one, captive breeding, where they're mothers are constantly separated from their young. So it's a lot of no bueno, not good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading something to kind of bring some more context around the dolphins, as I think, are dolphins one of the most exploited wild animals?
In terms of numbers, I'm trying to think. So when we did a report, there's over 3,000 dolphins in captivity, and we did like a search of every venue around the world. But yeah, they are the most exploited in terms of
the
numbers.
Most, yeah. And so you talked about like they normally travel about 40 to 50 miles. The other thing that I read is that because dolphins use echolocation when they're in the pool, that pool is kind of like what would that be considered?
Like barren concrete.
Yeah, like so they're constantly like they're sending out the echolocation, but it's just constantly back, coming back to them. So it's like you're in your own, constant chamber of your own thoughts. So you're constantly
you're in your own head.
Yeah. And that was kind of crazy to think about, that you never could get away from like your own thoughts, your own like just anything. Like you didn't even have that space for thinking, let alone movement. And then you have to deal with like the chemicals that are in the pool, the constant touching and the training and all of that. Like that's wild.
It's mentally exhausting, and I would go crazy.
Absolutely.
And many of them do. And many of them do go crazy, and it's just, to me, I can't imagine. It's just horrible. I remember when I went to see my first dolphin show 2 years ago, I think, at Miami Sea Aquarium, and it just ached. So, like, it just hurt so much when the show finished. Everyone walked away, and the dolphins just kept swimming in circles. Like, they just didn't have anything else to do. And I was like, this is their day every single day. Right. And I'm like, and I wanted to yell to everyone leaving, like, everyone, they're still here. Like, look, this is their life. Like, why'd you come here?
Yeah. Why'd you come here? Why'd you spend money on this?
Right.
Yeah, they just have to stay in that pool. And that's it. And then they can't really have normal social bonds like they would in the wilds. I'm sure that probably causes other forms of aggression because they can't find space. They can't exhibit natural tendencies, or I don't know, I'm guessing maybe get beaten if they exhibit natural tendencies.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, they don't have a way to escape if there's a quarrel between them. And same with us humans. If we're not getting along with someone, we just leave, or we just, get away, and they don't have that option. So that's what we try and educate. We try and educate on all these different aspects of a captive animal's life. Like, how is it in their day-to-day? How did they get there? What's their future going to look like? And so...
Yeah, really challenging. And it always surprises me, like staying on the dolphins, that still those dolphin shows exist. When we first started chatting, which I think was, I don't know, a little over a year or so ago, and I was looking at the World Animal Protection website, and, I saw some of your work against like SeaWorld and all of that. In my head, I thought, wait, they're still in business? I didn't even think people still went to these places. Has the popularity of them waned at all over like the last decade?
I think so. So I know Blackfish has come out over a decade ago, but that definitely had a huge impact. And every time I tell someone what I do, they always say Blackfish. Like, I don't
that's
support,
great.
Yeah, like 9 times out of 10, every time I tell someone, they say, I've seen Blackfish, it's horrible. I'm like, don't worry, like, I know. But it does surprise me as well. And I think a big part of it is just the marketing that they're doing. So when I went to Miami Sea Aquarium, and they are about to do the show, they give a little speech about the dolphins, and they're saying how dangerous it is for them in the wild, and we have to protect them from predators, and that's why they have a great life here, and they don't have to worry about food and hunting, and we give them the food, and I, unfortunately, I think that contributes to people thinking it's okay.
Yes, that in some way we're making their life better. And I had this conversation with someone, I think it was recently, and they were like, well, but living in the wild is dangerous. Well, yes, but that's the natural way of things.
Right.
It's far more enjoyable for them to go and swim their 40 miles, to do all of their fun dolphin things, make their dolphin relationships, do whatever the heck dolphins want to do on that day-to-day basis.
Exactly.
Instead of staying in a chlorinated pool I don't even know how big those pools are, not very big,
right.
And go back and forth, back and forth. It'd be like, I'm thinking right now, like walking back and forth in my office all day long. Like, I've already gotten crazy just the thought of it.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. But I guess when these people are going to these venues and the shows, and you have a loud speaker telling you that, maybe people are forcing themselves to believe it. I don't know, but...
Right, because you don't want to necessarily think you contributed to doing something bad. And like you're taking away another activity that your kid can't do. Because I know a lot of parents know that's another problem too, right? Like with parents and making their kids happy and making sure they see an animal or. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of ties a little bit into maybe larger systemic issues like wildlife trade and habitat destruction and, education. Do you think, that makes protecting those things, stopping those things even harder with, some of these activities?
So what came to mind for me, like, although illegal in the U.S. to capture dolphins, like the wildlife trade in the U.S., this still happens in Japan. So you might have heard of the Taiji dolphin hunts.
Yes.
The documentary, The Cove, focused on that. And unfortunately in Asia, the industry is booming, unfortunately, like the captive dolphin industry.
Oh, no.
So every year, a number of dolphins are captured, and they're transported to different venues in China or Saudi Arabia. So we're always putting out blogs or material out to continue educating people on this. So in terms of the wildlife trade, that's unfortunately happening with dolphins.
Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to Globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie passion gals on escapades to exotic and exciting destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat or exploring Iceland's famous ring road, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over to explore our dazzling lineup of tours and secure your spot today. Yeah, absolutely. Which then with having to capture them in the wild like that has to then have implications for their habitats. Because you're not, just getting a dolphin out of the water by coaxing it nicely. There has to be pretty invasive methods to do that, which affects all of the surrounding areas.
No, definitely. I don't know the specifics of how they're captured, but we know it's a very aggressive form.
Yeah.
And it's devastating to watch.
Absolutely. Do you think that with some of these activities as well, that they try and use conservation as a front to, say that it's okay, that we're doing the right thing, we're conserving the animals for the rest of the world kind of notion?
Yeah, they definitely use that to their advantage. Because many of us know that a lot of species are going extinct.
Yeah.
And, but for one, the common dolphin isn't one of them. The common bottlenose dolphin used typically at these parks aren't going extinct. So it's unfortunate that they're using that marketing messaging to their advantage when it's not applicable in this situation. But it's easy to confuse people with that because there are animals that are going extinct, but it's just not the ones used for entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe others that are going extinct, maybe they wouldn't be going extinct if we would just leave them the heck alone. But
exactly,
maybe that's another podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's us humans. It's hard. We know how to get our hands on many things and don't know when to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. To stop. That is exactly the case. So in your work, you guys have campaigned against a lot of big travel companies like Expedia, TripAdvisor, you already mentioned, Six Flags, Groupon, Get Your Guide, and many more. Can you share a little bit more about some of those campaigns and your goals behind them?
Yeah, so TripAdvisor I mentioned, that was a great win back in 2016. Expedia was a campaign I personally worked on. That was my first campaign with the organization. Awesome. And that was super fun because at the time Expedia was selling tickets to SeaWorld, all different captive dolphin venues. And I had to work to pressure the head of corporate responsibility at Expedia, who is based in Seattle. So I did a bunch of activation and local actions over there. Our team would jump on any public webinar that the head of CSR would be on, and our team would send in questions. What about animal welfare? Where's your animal welfare policy? And over time, over a year, we just kept going at them in different ways with demonstrations or with the webinars, as I mentioned, and then they updated their welfare policy in November 2021.
How long did that take?
That took around 2 years, I think. Okay. Because it started with initial conversations with folks in the UK, and then it's because Expedia is such a huge company, and It's all about finding the right people to talk to, or you have to hit the right pressure point with these campaigns a lot of the time. So sometimes, these campaigns can be very short. Sometimes they can be very long. But
2 years seems pretty good for a company the size of Expedia, though, with its global presence.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it worked well, because Expedia was always like, what's the word? They were just always boasting about their sustainability efforts or their or their CSR efforts, and we would always just go back at them with animal welfare. Yeah. And when we would put together actions in Seattle, and Seattle's like a small city, like we would put like wild posters around the city. I don't know, they're like, you put them on like on construction sites. Like it was just very visible, our campaign.
Yes.
So I think it just worked really well. And Seattle's such a progressive city, so it just I think there was just a lot of different factors that worked out really well for with Expedia. And then one of our newest campaigns, well, not a travel company, but it's Six Flags Great Adventure. So who we're trying to save from Six Flags is an elephant named Joyce. So she's an elephant there that's been living for a few years, and her whole life she's been transported around different roadside zoos and circuses, and then she ended up as, so we want to send her to a sanctuary. And last year we worked with Elephant Aid International to save another elephant. Her name was Mundi, from a Puerto Rican zoo, and we sent her to a sanctuary in Georgia. So Mundi and Joyce are connected because they were both brought from Africa in the 60s by this millionaire. Yeah, so in the 1960s, there was massive culling of elephants. And this American millionaire, Arthur Jones, wanted to, quote, rescue elephants. So he rescued 63 baby elephants. They were orphaned because their families were killed. He brought them to the U.S., to Florida. He kept them. Soon realized he couldn't take care of them all. And
he had 63 elephants on his property?
Yes, 63. He was just this millionaire, and he just wanted to save the elephants and thought he could do it, but realized he couldn't, so he sold them off to circuses and roadside zoos across the country. So two of them were Mundi and Joyce. Mundi, we were able to save, bring her to a sanctuary in Georgia, and then we realized Joyce was one of those 63 as well, and she was at Six Flags. So that's our campaign right now to try and free her. And she lives close to the roller coasters and,
What is her role at Six Flags? Because I only thought of Six Flags as a amusement park, as a roller coaster place. I didn't think of it as a place with animals.
Yeah, they have their wild animal safari.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Come on, Six Flags.
I know. It's like, can't you just stick to roller coasters? Like, doesn't that bring you in enough money?
And another recent one that you guys are still working on is Get Your Guide.
Yes, Get Your Guide, a German-based travel company. They've been very challenging.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised because this campaign feels like it's been going on for a decent amount of time.
They are just reluctant to putting up an animal welfare policy. We don't know exactly what it is. We demonstrated outside their employee retreat in Berlin, got a good amount of press, demonstrated outside a conference the CEO spoke at here in New York, got press for it as well. But they just they're not moving. It's bizarre because they're a young company.
Yeah. And they're headquartered in Berlin, right?
In Berlin.
Which is a very progressive city.
So it is a little bizarre. One of their founders is from Asia. So I think maybe there's some connection there. Because the problem, like, when it comes to, like, captive elephant, that it brings a livelihood to some people.
Sure.
And that's an argument that the other side would say, like, oh, this elephant brings me money for the rides, for tourism. So I don't know.
Right. That's another part of the discussion of then finding ways to help these people so that they don't entirely lose their livelihoods, but they're able to then move into something else, to making money off of protecting the animal maybe and having people just come and view it. There are a lot of stories of sanctuaries in Thailand that have moved into that way. I mean, here in the U.S. too, we've seen it with like chicken farming, with certain organizations giving chicken farmers the funding to then start growing mushrooms and other like plant-based products to get them out of the industry. So I feel like where there's a will, there is a way.
Yes, I agree.
Are there any other campaigns specifically that you want to touch on as well?
So the Joyce campaign is my main campaign right now that I'm working on. We also have our Groupon campaign. So that's also similar to Get Your Guide. But we've had conversations with the CEO, and but he hasn't budged yet. But I'm still excited for it because I'm working with a local nonprofit in Prague, because that's where the CEO is based. It's an interesting situation. It's an American company, but the CEO is Czech, and he's based over there. So I'm putting together demonstrations over there, and a local group is helping me with that. So
that's really awesome.
Hopefully that will be a win.
I saw you guys had a school campaign against Groupon in Prague as well, too, where kids sent in a bunch of really cute little photos.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that didn't have an effect.
I know, right? I feel like, guilt tripping them a bit. But yeah, that's the same group I'm working with, and they had connections with teachers in Prague, and the teachers were so great. They got all those drawings together, of really nice drawings too, and they sent them to his office.
Yeah. And the kids they drew, it was all animal.
All animal, right? With messaging like wild animals deserve to be free, or I'm sad, I'm in this cage, let me go.
That's amazing. I love it. Thanks, kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is a really positive, thing to come out of it, is getting kids to recognize these things at a young age. Are there other ways that companies have responded positively, with like meaningful changes that you feel like, okay, this was really well worth our efforts, and like this is progress?
Yeah. I mean, for us, when a company publishes an animal welfare policy, that is always the biggest win for us. Mm-hmm. We always get super excited when we've worked with like Airbnb and their animal experiences platform, their animal welfare. So if you're traveling with Airbnb, for those that may not be familiar, they offer experiences on their platform. All the animal related ones are like animal welfare approved by us, which is very cool. Education First, we're really proud to have worked with Intrepid, is another great responsible travel company. We also have our huge list of wildlife friendly travel companies, which Veggies Abroad is also on there as well. So yeah, we're just really happy when companies just agree with our values and we can promote them and celebrate them.
Yeah, absolutely. That has to be a really nice part of your job, especially when you have to spend so much time yelling. Well, maybe yelling isn't the right word. Strongly advising them to make better choices.
Right. We urge you. No.
Yeah. So we touched on a couple of them, but are there companies right now that you really would suggest that people maybe avoid or actively share with, their other traveling friends to avoid, or maybe post something on their Instagram to encourage them to make better choices?
Definitely. So right now it's Get Your Guide, Groupon, Trip.com, maybe not be too familiar. They're not that big here in the States.
They're larger in the UK, right?
In Asia.
Asia, okay.
Yeah. But if you're in the UK or EU, TUI. So my counterparts over there are campaigning on TUI.
Yes. TUI comes up often, I see in other vegan circles, because they have added vegan menus to some of their resorts. And so then people are like, oh, that's great, they have food for us. And I'm like, no, don't go. There's also a resort in Mexico that did the same thing. What is it called? Xcaret. They added, I think it's a vegetarian restaurant to one of their resorts, and it looks lovely. Mm-hmm. But they have an Xcaret water park and adventure park or whatever, and there are captive dolphins there.
Oh gosh.
I know. I've heard from many people. They were like, I saw the food and was excited, made an assumption, and why would there be a dolphin on the property? That sucks.
That's so bizarre. It seems like there's one department that gets it and another department that doesn't, and they just do their own thing. I don't know. That's so weird to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Get Your Guide, TUI, what were some of the other ones? Trip.com you mentioned?
And Groupon.
Okay, so those are the big ones right now that people could go to your website, get information about, share, not book.
Yes. We have on our website an animal-friendly travel guide. And there they could see like these companies listed to not book, companies to book with, like Airbnb, Expedia, and what to look out for when you're searching.
Yes, awesome. And so I think that leads really nicely into other ways that people can maybe make better choices or to educate themselves when they're booking anything that could be related to wildlife. Are there other resources you think people should check out?
So I would say just to encourage to follow us, just to plug that in, because we're constantly uploading different educational materials. Like our blog is very active. So if there's something in the news related to animal tourism, we usually blog about it and educate people that way. So I just encourage people to follow us because we're always just putting up new information.
So as we wrap things up, is there any last things that you would like to leave with people before they book their next trips, or ways to be a more responsible traveler when it comes to wildlife, or anything that you would like to share?
Oh, I forgot to share about our Wildlife Heritage Areas program.
Okay.
So to help people find more ethical alternatives to seeing animals in the wild, we created this global program with a nonprofit called the World Cetacean Alliance. So Wildlife Heritage Areas, they're designated areas around the world where travelers can have ethical interactions with wild animals while supporting the local community and conservation efforts.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really cool program. There's 11 sites in the U.S., in the world, around the world right now, certified, with 2 in the U.S., in Dana Point and Santa Barbara. I've been to both sites. Highly recommend them. Dana Point's actually known as the dolphin and whale watching capital of the world. Because you can see super pods of dolphins there. So a group of dolphins is called a pod, but over there you can see super pods, which is like hundreds of dolphins at a time. You do have to get a little lucky to see the super pod, but there's that great occurrence of that happening. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking our website for more information on this program.
That's really cool. I'll find the link to that and we'll drop it in the show notes. Those are really beautiful places too in the U.S. to visit in the summer. And they're all really nice road trip areas. So great ideas.
Yeah, it's a short, not far from LA, Santa Barbara. I did the drive myself and it's beautiful.
Awesome. Nicole, it was so lovely to chat with you. Thank you so much for all of your work and all of your efforts to protect wildlife around the world. We appreciate you and appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. This was great.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.